And I know you can't see me. I'm having some technical difficulties with my camera, and that's probably all for the better. So we've got Josh here, and who better than to talk about listings than the person in the last 5 years who's had over 400 listings. 400. That's incredible. And over $100 million in closed volume. So do you think we can learn something from Josh? I think so. So without further ado, 6 years of experience, a little bit more than that, right? Yeah, exactly. Mind blown. So seeing it in the chat, let's hear from Josh. Thank you so much for doing this for us, Josh. And here you go. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Eddie. Give me a second. Let me get my screen shared here. You guys all see the correct screen?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. So we're gonna go a little off script from what the Ignite presentation originally was. We're gonna kind of walk through same timeline as what they had planned, but kind of walk through how like myself and the other young team agents approach getting listings, which I think should be applicable to all of us. So this is kind of timeline of what we're going to go through today, starting with identifying sellers all the way through listing agreement. Feel free if you guys have questions, jump in. We're going to do a little bit of role playing today. I don't really know where the questions pop up, but I'm sure somebody will tell me if you guys have questions. See here. So identifying sellers, in the Ignite presentation, they talk about A sellers. They identify A sellers as sellers that are looking to sell in the next 14 days. I think my definition would be in the next 30 days, kind of regardless of if it's 30 days, 14 days. In my personal opinion, A sellers are great. However, it's not how you build your business. Someone that, is very influential in the young team recently keeps making a comment. You cannot build a business solely harvesting ripe fruit. You have to approach all sellers, potential sellers, as good opportunities. If they're A sellers, B sellers, D sellers, you have the opportunity, if you can get in front of them, if you can impart your knowledge on them, of taking someone who doesn't want to sell for 6 months and turn them into a fall seller for this year. This year alone, I've got 3 closings that came from sellers that I met with in 2019. Sometimes that's what it takes. People aren't ready. If you can get in front of them, as long as you know what you're talking about and you can have consistent follow-up, it's well worth the time. If you only focus on A sellers, only focus on people that want to sell in the next 14 days, you are going to leave a lot of opportunity on the table. Big motivational reasons behind selling. Now, these typical type of things are what create urgency with sellers. You have the D's of real estate, which is all the negatives, the death, the divorce, debt, downsizing. It's a brutal part of being a listing agent. You have to go into people's homes that are going through these type of things. There are the flip side, the positives of this. So you have, job relocation or promotion, upsizing, birth, marriage. Those are typically a lot more exciting to talk to people about. They're moving to a better situation as opposed to a worse. But I would say half of our business as a listing agent is dealing with people that are, selling because of death in the family, going through a divorce, things that are slightly more uncomfortable. Your job is to approach it with some empathy, but also a lot of professionalism. They don't want someone that's just going to sit there and cry with them. They want someone that's going to help create a game plan that gets them through this difficult time. Moving on to getting the appointment. you want to establish trust value when you're talking to people. It's a big part of if they're reaching out to you, if you're reaching out to them. Online reviews is a huge way in the last like 5 years. For us, the young team, it's very easy. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews. That's great. Personal referrals from past clients, all of those type of things. If you have good success in the area that you're talking to a potential seller in, all those things that you can do to establish trust with them is going to help them want to get to the next part with you, which is really going to be working on actually booking that appointment. So the next couple of slides, pre-listing packet, we're actually gonna talk a little bit about as we're preparing to get the listing or a listing appointment. And so I don't know if this is something you guys all use. It's a very important part of my job. It's the seller information sheet. I personally believe, and I think it's probably a lot of people's mindset, that you go to a listing appointment and you go there and it's like, it's a crapshoot. You're going to talk to them. You're going to see how it goes. It's not the way I want to run my business. I want to have a phone conversation with every potential seller, and I'm going to map out a game plan before I ever walk into their house. We will not take a listing appointment without a phone call beforehand. Did we just lose my screen?
We can still see your screen.
Oh, it's weird. I can see somebody else's screen now. Anyways, I thought it was best for us to actually role play what this seller information sheet phone call looks like. So I'm gonna ask Jen Waters to be a seller, if you're cool with that, Jen.
Yep.
Cool. Fantastic. All right, so Jen, basically premise of Jen being a seller is that she reached out to me through online form or calling the office, and I'm basically going to call her back and figure out, at this point I have very little information about her, but figure out what what she's looking for, what her motivation is, all that kind of stuff. So ring.
Hello.
Hi, is this Jen?
Yes, it is.
Jen, hey, Josh Young with the Young Team. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Jen, purpose of my phone call. I saw you reached out about an hour ago about your house on Pepper Creek, and I wanted to follow up and see how we could help.
Yeah, thank you for getting back to me so quickly. My husband and I are being relocated to Charleston, and we are reaching out to some agents in the area to come out and take a look at the house and help us get ready to sell it.
Oh, that's amazing. I love Charleston. What's taking you there? Work or?
Yeah, my husband sold his company, and they have a area down there where he can be based out of. So we decided to leave the snow behind, and we're relocating there to be warmer.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And when, so Jen, when do you already have a game plan in place? When do you need to be in Charleston?
Yeah, we need to be there probably no later than after Christmas. And we have family down there that we're planning to probably stay with until we find something that we either want to buy or build.
Oh, fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
if you guys do need any help in Charleston, one of my closest friends lives down there. I'd be happy to connect you guys. But so, Jen, I'm curious. I saw you filled out the address. Do you live on Pepper Creek? Is that correct?
Yes, we live at 6 Pepper Creek.
6 Pepper Creek. Fantastic. And
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about your house.
Yeah, we bought it in 2019. It was mostly updated when we bought it. Little under 5,000 square feet. The updates weren't necessarily all our taste, so we did redo some of the stuff in the house. But it's. I mean, I love the street. If it weren't for him selling his company, I'd probably never move. But we have a pool, we back up to the creek. We have like a 2-story deck, walk out lower level. Tell me what else you would like to know.
Yeah, so I guess, I'm able to pull up some of the square footage and bedrooms and that kind of stuff. You mentioned doing some improvements to the home since you've owned it. Tell me a little bit more about that. Elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, so the kitchen was updated. However, the counters weren't our taste. So we changed out the counters. I don't know if you're familiar, but we put in like a Taj Mahal quartzite. So the real pretty gray color, it I think changed the whole look.
Very
We
nice.
refaced both fireplaces. They were a little cottage style for us. So we refaced them with just like a nice neutral stone. And then we put wood in the master. We replaced the master tub. It was one of those giant, jetted tubs. So we replaced it with a freestanding, just a basin tub. And then we took down a lot of the wallpaper and just painted it neutral. And then we replaced some light fixtures. We did update the second full bath that was pretty dated. So it's got, new granite counters, new sinks, cabinets, tiled the tub shower insert. So, and then we restained the deck and redid the basement.
Wow. So you guys have done a lot of work in the last couple of years.
Yeah, a lot.
Fantastic. And just out of curiosity, when you guys were looking to purchase this home, what was it about this one that drew you to it?
We loved the, like the columns, the circular driveway. We loved that it backed up to the creek, and we had always wanted a pool. So I think really those exterior features were the main draw for us. And then we did have some good friends on the street. So it's a great street. We love it. But
Oh, for sure, for sure. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've taken notice or whatever. I think we probably sold 3 homes on your street in the last year.
Yeah.
Two on Hunting Hollow, 1 on Pepper Creek, 3 down from you.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I put the request online, because we've seen a lot of your signs. In fact, you just sold the one next door.
Yep,
So
gotcha.
we've
That
seen the
was going to
signs.
be my
Yep.
next question for you, how you heard about the young team.
Yep.
Fantastic. And so, Jen, I don't think I asked you, I apologize. You mentioned your husband. What's your husband's first name?
Sean.
How do you spell that?
Sean.
Fantastic. So, you mentioned Sean and yourself, you're moving to Charleston. You guys got to be there by the end of the year. Ideal world, when would you guys like to have your house on the market? When would you like to have it sold by? What does that kind of look like for you?
Well, I don't know if this factors into it or not. You tell me. I mean, we don't really need much time to get it ready, because I personally think it's pretty ready to go, but we would like to sell it at an optimal time. And I don't know what that looks like. And we also have the pool, which is open right now. So I don't know if that's something you would suggest, getting on the market relatively soon, even though we don't need to move for 3 months. So we would definitely follow your advice on that, but we could be as ready as early as next week, or we could wait till you think it's a better time.
Fantastic. Well, I love the sense of urgency. I think you're spot on with the pool. Even if we don't want to be on the market immediately, we definitely want to start securing outside pictures with the pool open.
Okay.
That will be tremendously important.
Okay.
I'm curious as well. So you guys have put all these improvements into the house.
Mhm.
Clearly, you know what's going on in the neighborhood. Have Sean and yourself started talking? Do you guys have a rough guess or a rough thought on what your home is currently worth today?
We really don't. We know we paid $675 for it in 2019. We're really hoping, based on what the one next door sold for, and I know it was bigger, but it seemed like it needed a lot of improvements. So I would say, based on what that sold for, we're hoping to get close to 900 for the
Okay.
house.
Okay. The one next door, actually really interesting story. I don't know if you know all the details, but we listed it at 750. We did a pre-home inspection. The house needed an entire new roof. It's a slate roof, so it's going to be about 50 grand. We put it on at a more aggressive price, ended up selling it 100 grand over asking. We had like 7 offers on it, ended up getting no contingencies. So that's definitely something that when we sit down, myself, Sean, and yourself can kind of talk through strategy. What's the best game plan to get you guys everything you're looking for?
Yeah, that sounds good. We're really definitely looking for someone who can guide us and give us the best advice. So,
Cool. So speaking of kind of the process of, figuring out who's going to be that person, what does
Mhm.
that look like for you guys? Are you interviewing other agents, reaching out to other agents? Are you just talking to us?
So we are interviewing two other agents. Both of them are referred to us. Both are local. One's from Howard Hanna. One is from Century 21. And yeah, we already have those appointments set up. So you are our third.
Oh, fantastic. You know what? I always recommend people do interview multiple agents. I think what myself and my team does is so unique to the market. But it's
Mhm.
like, you really can't take my word on that. You don't know me. You can read our reviews and you obviously know some of the sellers that I've worked with, but it's like, I think it's great talking to other people. So you really have something to compare to. You mentioned that those appointments are already scheduled. When are those
Yes.
scheduled for?
Actually, tomorrow we have one in the afternoon, and then we have one early evening.
Oh, fantastic. So you guys are
Yes.
getting after it.
Yes.
So I guess what I'd like to do, especially we're talking about the pool, we're showing some sense of urgency. What does Saturday look like for Sean and yourself? Do you guys have availability?
I know that I'm pretty flexible. I think he does have he's playing golf, but I don't think he's playing golf until like late morning, early afternoon. So we probably have like Saturday morning available.
Oh, fantastic. Let me grab my calendar here real quickly. It looks like I have a 9 o'clock on Saturday available. Would that be
Mhm.
early enough so that we could have a good conversation and Sean can still get to golf on time?
Yeah, I think that will work out well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, let me do this. We'll get 9 o'clock Saturday morning scheduled. Before I kind of wrap up this and see if you have any questions, I do have one more question for you.
Mhm.
You're interviewing multiple agents. What would you say top 3 things are that you're looking for in the realtor you choose to hire?
Yeah, I think well, first and foremost, I really would love someone who's just going to be looking out for us. That's
Okay.
really important. We don't, we haven't sold a ton of homes. We've only sold one before. And it, it was okay. This is a much bigger sale. And so we want it to go really well. The second thing would be definitely the marketing. I know we called you based on your signs. We love your marketing. And I think it's, anything you can do to uniquely get the property in front of people would be great. And then I think probably this is on everyone's list, but netting the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time would be the best.
Fantastic. Well, the good thing is, I know it sounds comical, but shortest amount of time and netting the most amount of money actually go hand in hand. So that's something we'll definitely talk through on Saturday. Definitely looking forward to elaborating on marketing with you guys. I have a phenomenal in-house marketing department. I think they just crush it. Huge part of our success. So,
Perfect.
so Jen, before we get off the phone, we're talking 9 a.m. with Sean and yourself on Saturday. Just
Yes.
want to make sure I got the best information for you. What is the best email address for you?
It is jenniferwaters@me.com.
Okay. And would you like me to include Sean on the email as well?
Sure. Yeah, that would
Cool.
be great.
What's the best email for him?
His is seanwaters1@me.com.
One, the number spelled out.
Yes.
Cool.
The number.
Cool.
Yep.
And then this is the best phone number for you.
Uh-huh.
Cool. So Jen, as soon as we get off the phone, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send Sean and yourself an email.
Okay.
It's going to have my contact information on it. I'm going to attach a bit of information about my team just so you guys can start looking through it, preparing some questions if you guys want. And then I'm also separately going to send you a calendar invite for 9 a.m. on Saturday. Like I said,
Okay.
you'll get all of that from me in the next couple minutes. Outside of
Okay.
that, any further questions before we meet on Saturday?
No, I think that's really I think you've answered pretty much everything. I'm sure there'll be more, as we meet on Saturday, but for now I think this is great.
Cool, fantastic. We're really excited to meet, to see another house on Pepper Creek, to kind of talk you guys through how we do everything. And then
Okay.
please let me know in the meantime if you guys have any questions, call, text, email, whatever is convenient for you.
Sounds great.
Cool. See you on
Thank
Saturday.
you.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
Bye.
Cool. Thanks, Jen. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for a second because I do want to be able to see if anybody does have questions. The seller information sheet to me is probably the most important part of the whole listing process. So take a moment. Anybody can jump in if you guys got questions about it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, Nika Graham, Keller Williams. So when we take the listing appointment and it's time to go to the house and look at the house, and like she said, hey, I want you to come over, you know, take a look around, tell me, you know, how we can sell the house. Well, is there some things, because some of us don't know, what are we looking for to help, you know what I'm saying, like to give them that advice of what they need to do or what we suggest. I don't always know.
Yeah,
the answer.
that's a great question, and I don't think that it's always a like blanket answer. I think a lot of it has to do with what price are they looking for? What is their goals? You know, are they trying to sell quickly? Are they willing to invest money into the house to get a higher list price? Something that Jen mentioned as a seller is they're looking to net the most amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
She mentioned that she thought her home was worth 900 or in the 900s. Well, if I go to her house on Saturday and tell her, you know, you can do X, Y, and Z, it's going to cost you $100,000 in 3 months, and I can sell your home for $1 million. It sounds great. It makes a lot of agents feel better that they can now say that, tell their client $1 million. But at the end of the day, all Jen has done is wasted 3 months of her time, risked $100,000, and basically walks away with netting the same amount of money.
Right.
I think for me, it's if there's something glaringly obvious that is going to prevent the majority of buyers from buying this house. Had a house in Parma once where it's like you open the front door and you literally could see into the basement when you walked in. Like,
Oh, wow.
you know, not great. That probably need to be fixed after, you know, it's like the fourth buyer falls in and breaks their leg. Like, not great for selling the house. If the house smells like smoke or cat urine, those type of things, you're going to lose a lot of buyers. If you can address some of them, great. The rest of them, it's like you're really just talking timeline. I think in a lot of cases, the tweaks that houses need are very minimal.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Cool. Let me go back to, I think we are sharing somebody else's screen, so I'm gonna.
One quick question, Josh. What if Jen
Sure.
had asked about commission? How do you handle that?
I just hang up the phone and never talk to her again. No, if I can, it's like that's something I'd like to talk about in person. So typically the line would be something along the lines of like, you know, Jen, that's a fantastic question. It's one of the first things that Sean and I will talk about, or myself, that I will talk about with Sean and yourself on Saturday. I'm not trying to get into too much detail on the seller information call. I am trying to get in front of them in their house where I can look them in their eye. The information call is more for me to get information from them. What I'm really looking to do is based off this sheet, based off the notes that I just took, I am now preparing myself to go to their house on Saturday with a game plan. And the game plan is basically, cool, I know who my competition is. I have a rough idea of what improvements they did and why they fell in love with the house. I know that they're aware about my team's success on their street and in the neighborhood. You know, I know who they're interviewing. I know when they're interviewing them. And so I'm going to come in prepared, of course, knowing the market. I'm going to come in with a rough idea based on what I know about the house, regardless of Jen's suggested price of, cool, if the house is this, this, and this, maybe it's $850. If it's if her Taj Mahal countertops is incredible, is it $1,050,000 or what does $995 look like? And then my job when I walk in the house, which is what we'll be talking about, is to start refining that game plan. What I don't want to do is spend a bunch of time talking about marketing if marketing is not important to them. But I also don't want to get into my marketing pitch on the phone either, because one, it's not a good use of time. We still have to go through it at the appointment. And two, in the state of Ohio, you need both spouses to sign. And I didn't hear Sean yelling over Jen's shoulder, which does happen sometimes, makes it great, comical, awkward. But I don't want to repeat myself again. It's like we might as well just handle it on Saturday. Cool. Any other questions? Seller info sheet. Jen, as long as you're on the call, anything from a listing agent's perspective you want to add?
I had a
No,
question.
Oh, go ahead.
You get this comment, I'm not doing anything. I mean, nothing. And I had a guy, he wouldn't even turn the power on. I said, I have to show this. It's literally cold. Turn the heat on, turn the power on. And it took 8 months for him to I'll see you in Discovery. We had the power on it and we've sold it in the next 90 days. But how do you get past that? I'm not doing anything. I'm not even turning the electricity on. I'm not turning the water on.
I think that you have to be straightforward with the seller. I think you have to explain to them that if you're unwilling to turn the power on, can we sell the house? For sure, of course. It's not a requirement that the house has power to sell it. But I think you have to be very straightforward about what this is going to do to projected price, projected timeline, and the buyers that he's going to potentially lose. If there's no power in the middle of summer or middle of winter, sounds like in this one, it was probably winter. It's like buyers, a lot of buyers, now you still have your institutional investors, your, flippers, things like that. They don't care. But it's like, if you're taking a nice elderly couple in, as soon as they walk in and the house is 40 degrees, like they're walking back out. It doesn't allow them to feel comfortable in the home. Buying is an emotional process. But I think it's just laying out the game plan, very similar to the last question of like making improvements to the house. If you want to do this, this, and this, this is what we can expect. If you don't want to do anything, this is what we can expect. And then I think you have to find the balance between what's realistic and what the seller is willing to do. Cool. Jen, you were going to say something?
No, I think everything you said was, spot on. I think the most important thing is the initial phone call that's going to set you up for success, and then prepare you. And the more prepared you are for the appointment, the better chances that you are of getting the listing.
Cool. Well, let me go back to sharing my screen.
Have you ever said, hey, I'm not taking this listing. This seller's too ridiculous.
Yes, for sure. So I'm super confused what's going on with my screen because it says I'm viewing Luby's screen, but can you guys see my screen? Cool. All right, so moving on. Pre-listing packet. I ended the phone call with Jen talking about that I was going to send her a confirmation of our appointment, my contact information, and a bit of information about my team. My personal opinion is that if I can get some of this information into the seller's hands ahead of time, it's going to, one, help my conversion on appointment. It's also going to streamline the process. I will say this, I look at this fully like a business. And if I can go on an appointment and be in and out in 75 minutes, it's a lot better for me than 90 minutes or an hour, 2 hours. And what I want is sellers that are prepared to ask good questions when I'm there. So basically what we do is we have our pre-listing booklet. I will bring a hard copy with me to the listing appointment. However, this is an example of what we send over. It's a bit of our team's success. Overall, houses that we've sold, different programs that we offer, client reviews, things like this. It would be my recommendation. I know you guys can make this in Command. I know it's something that the Market Center can help you guys with as well. You want to have something that the sellers can look at that gives them confidence in yourself, outside of you just sitting on their couch talking about yourself for an hour. I think there's a much better way of getting that information across to them. Any questions about the like pre-listing packet or like the seller book? Cool. So now we're talking about going on the listing appointment. You've identified everything, the seller information sheet, you've sent over your confirmation, sent over a little bit of information along that. The listing appointment is where it gets very interesting. This is where it kind of like makes, are you a great agent, a good agent, not a good agent? When you're sitting in your office, you're preparing, you can convince yourself of everything. When you're sitting in front of sellers, when you're walking into a house that you've never been in, Jen told me all these beautiful improvements that she did. For all I know, she's full of it. Or it's the ugliest stuff I've ever seen, and I have to pivot and deal with that. It also might be on the flip side, significantly better. You have a lot of sellers that are not boisterous about themselves, and it's like they'll tell you they've done these updates, my house is fine, and it's like you walk in and you're like completely overwhelmed by them. So for myself, if I'm going on a listing appointment, I always have listing paperwork with me. To me, it is a waste of time to go on an appointment without the ability to take the listing. You want to have your comps prepared, one printed out, also internalized so that you can talk about them. You can have them, I think depending on who your sellers are, you can have them printed out, you can have them on your iPad. We still deal with a lot of sellers that are 60 plus years old, even though I would say on my appointment that
I get a brief. Actually,
what was that? Either way, I always like to have comps printed out. I think that you couldn't pull it up on your iPad, but we do have older sellers that are not quite as comfortable. They like to have something in their hand to hold. I really prefer that they don't want to keep my iPad at the end of the presentation. Definitely want to have relevant marketing materials. So an example of anything you do that might be unique to yourself, and the more relevant it can be to their house, the better. So for example, for myself, if I'm going to this Pepper Creek listing, as I mentioned, in the last year or so, I've sold 2 houses on Hunting Hollow, 1 house on Pepper Creek. I'm going to bring samples of the marketing for those 3 houses, not samples for a house that I sold in Akron or Hudson. If all that I've sold in this price point is a house in Hudson, I'm going to bring that over bringing a $200,000 house in Lyndhurst, even though it's closer. I want them to be able to see and touch and fully understand, if they hire me, what are they getting, that's different from everybody else. But I would say biggest thing would be having the listing paperwork. I think that there's a lot of times you go to somebody's house and their timeline from the initial phone call maybe is longer than you expected, and you get there and it's like by the time they get going, they're ready to go. Jen on her call talked about the pool. She seemed very in tune with the idea that fall market, getting the house on the market while the pool was still open might be a good idea. But maybe, she really doesn't need to be in Charleston until January 1. And so they're looking at celebrating Thanksgiving and Christmas in their house, and they're not thinking about this at all. When I go to the house on Saturday, I'm going to talk to them about securing exterior pictures, something that they might not have thought about. And I'm not securing exterior pictures without a signed commitment to myself. And so with that conversation can pivot very quickly, and you need paperwork. I think having to go back to people's houses to get paperwork signed, or to wait for digital paperwork to be signed, if you have someone in front of you that's ready to go, is a waste of time. The other big thing I would say, as far as listing appointments, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they don't ask for the close. They just wait for the seller to eventually say, all right, so what's the next steps? How do we move forward? A lot of people I know walk out of appointments never having asked for the listing, and they would have gotten the listing if they just asked for it. You got to be confident in your ability to help these people. And if you're confident in your ability to help them, why should they not want to list with you? Or why should you at least not want to ask for it? Does that make sense?
Hey, Josh, this is Chris Case. I just had a question. Do you just have them sign and then you date it later?
Yeah, we'll do a projected date, based on when they want to go to the market. It really depends on, how long of a timeline we're looking at. Like for us, if I'm going to secure some sort of pictures, like if we're securing spring pictures or exterior pictures for like a spring listing, we'll just have them sign something so that, we have like the rough idea of a commitment. It's more based on me having permission now to take photos of their house. But yeah, moving forward, like once we have dates defined, we'll have them sign everything with dates on it.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions about this part?
Josh, we have a question in the chat that says, how do you ask for the listing? That's the toughest part.
Or is it the easiest part? No, I think you just gotta be straightforward about it. It's like my conversation. Like, so Sean and Jen, I know that they had interviewed 2 other agents. Myself personally, if I have confidence in the seller that they're not going to list with someone before I get there, I'm always going to try to interview last. I'm either interviewing first or last. First, if she had said that they had reached out or gonna be reaching out to a few people, but haven't done so yet, I'm probably gonna go first because I feel confident in my ability to shut it down before they actually interview anybody else. In this case, they had 2 people lined up, so I'm gonna go last. The conversation will probably be something along the lines of like, after we've gone through everything, on the assumption, like, let's say they're not like fawning over me, it's going to be a conversation of like, so Jen, just out of curiosity, right? So you interviewed, you said the Howard Hanna agent, the Century 21 agent. How did those appointments go?
Good.
Fantastic.
Really well. Mm-hmm.
Nice. So, now that you've talked to the 3 of us, is there any hesitations that you have in working with the Young team? Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that they did that kind of separates them from us?
No, I think, all 3 of you were great. I liked your approach on marketing a little bit better than I think the other 2. However, I'm sure you get this a lot. Your commission is obviously higher than, they offered.
Yeah, for sure. I can appreciate that. I think what we offer is equatable to the commission that we charge. I think, remind me, you did say netting the most money was important to you, correct?
Yes.
And so if I like show you, we talked about your next door neighbor's house, how I net them significantly more. A lot of that was based off my photographer, Chris, in-house marketing team, Katie, Michaela, everything that they can do for you. If I can show you, or if you feel confident in my ability to net you more, are you comfortable moving forward with us?
Yeah, I would definitely be comfortable moving forward. Obviously, Sean has to agree, but I think we both were very impressed with your presentation and your strategy to help us sell our house for as quickly as possible.
Cool. Well, here's what I'm thinking. You know, we obviously want to get the pool shots. I want to get drone shots going for your house. You know, we're not quite ready to put the inside on, but it's like we definitely want to lean into the pool pre-Labor Day. It's like if we can get the process started today, I can line everything up for next week. Are you guys good with that?
Yeah, we would definitely be okay with that.
Cool. Let's go on, sign some paperwork. So that worked out pretty well there. I will say also really strong reason why I want to have the paperwork is that when there's hesitation, or they maybe need to do a little bit of discussing amongst themselves. Discussing amongst themselves really means that they have an objection or something that they don't have enough confidence in me in. But what I might do is, you know, Jen, Sean, I appreciate that you guys need to discuss things a little bit, but as long as I'm here, I have paperwork with me, and I would love to just review the paperwork with you so that once you guys make your decision, you guys feel confident in the paperwork that you're going to sign. I want this to be a process, and I truly mean this. Like, nothing we're trying to do is tricking you. I need you guys to be fully comfortable with every document you sign, every choice you make. You guys, can you give me 10 more minutes? We can just run through the paperwork real quickly. Cool. And then it's like, we'll start going through the paperwork. And then it's like, by the time we go through the paperwork, I use the paperwork to set expectations, talk about different strategies that we use. And I would say 50% of the time after going through the paperwork, it's like, cool. Jen, now that you guys have reviewed the paperwork, you guys understand it. Do you have any hesitations with the paperwork? She's going to say no. And it's like, fantastic. It's like, as long as we're here, let's just ink this thing. I'll get the team going on Monday. It's like, we'll have a photographer lined up. We'll start everything going for you. It's like, I'll make this process as simple as possible. And then maybe you get the objection of like, I don't know. So you get a lot of people that don't want to like break the hearts of the other realtors. I will recommend I can call the other two realtors for them. That's no problem for me. You just got to figure out what their objection is. But if you don't ask for it, it's like strong possibility the other two agents didn't ask for it. And if you ask for it, it's like they're ready to go. They've done their due diligence. And it's like, you're the person sitting in front of them. Why not? Cool. Any other questions about the appointment?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
As far as like the paperwork, and it's like, here's what you're gonna pay us. It's probably not the first piece of paper. So maybe what in order, like, is it the property disclosure kind of go, hey, can you tell me a little bit about the property? This is one of the questions. Which piece of paper do you start with? And I always don't even put a price in or a listing price, whatever. We'll come back to that. So just let's get this started. But how, in what order do you actually do the paperwork?
Sure. So I break the paperwork up into two packets. One we jokingly call the homework, because I'm going to leave it with the sellers. That's some internal documents that my team uses regarding improvements on the sheets, things that help my marketing department. And then the disclosures. So what I do is I kind of break up the documents into the two packets, and I tell them real quickly, we're going to go through the homework packet first. And I kind of go through like our internal documents, the property disclosures, the lead-based paint disclosure, give them the caveat that I'm legally not allowed to help them fill this out. My recommendation is for them to be as open and honest as possible. And then from there, I move on to the listing agreement paperwork, which is what I need to secure the listing. And the order that I do that paperwork in, it always starts with the consumer guide first. To me, that's the whole purpose of that document, is so that they understand what type of agency they have. And so we run through that. I'm going to be very clear on what representing the seller talks about. I'm going to be very clear about dual agency, especially the way my team functions. But I want them to understand basically what they're going to be signing. At that point, I go consumer guide. I go to an internal form for my team that discusses which program they're going to go to. And then I go into the paperwork, the actual exclusive right. And when we do the exclusive right, I'm going to go through the questions and ask them in front of them. We're going to, you know, we've maybe defined the listing price already. And so I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to say, you know, Jen, Sean, just want to clarify, we're all in agreement. We're going to list your home at $895 or $995 or whatever. And they both say yes, and I'll fill it in. And then we can fill in the dates. We're going to go through on the second page. Now we have to ask, you know, Jen, I'm curious, do you guys have any surveillance equipment? Yes or no? I got to explain that part. Jen and Sean, is there going to be anything excluded from the sale of your home? You know, permanent fixtures, light fixtures, drapes, the appliances, the washer and dryer. We'll fill that part out. And then I'll ask about the home warranty. And then after I fill those parts out, we're going to flip the document around and I'm going to go through the document with them. And then we kind of end on the brokerage, ABAs and required documents. Does that make sense for you?
Thank you. That was good. Does
You're
help.
welcome. So last part of this, and then we can open it up for all sorts of questions. The listing agreement, which is kind of what we're talking about. My biggest recommendation for you, and this really goes for all paperwork for the brokerage, the consumer guide, the buyer rep agreement, the contract, you have to be comfortable with the paperwork. You need to be so comfortable with the paperwork that when you're sitting on the opposite side of the table from your clients, you can flip the paperwork around so it's facing them, slide it over to them, and lean back in your chair and explain it line by line or paragraph by paragraph. If you can't do that, why should they have confidence in you representing them or understanding this document? It is a legal document. It says at the top that they should have a lawyer review it if they feel the need. If you're wavering on what you are saying, they're going to think, oh man, this person either doesn't do this enough, doesn't know what they're talking about. I should get a lawyer to review it. You need to be confident in what you're doing. When I send digital paperwork, I get a lot of phone calls. You know, they get confused. The typical parts that are getting confusing are the home warranty, ABA. If we're not offering a home warranty, we have to sign the waiver line. So they'll want to go through that. I'm confused. I thought we said we weren't offering a warranty. Why am I signing this? And I get the question a lot from sellers that it's like, hey, you got 5 minutes to go through the listing paperwork before we sign if they did it digitally. And it's like, I'll text them back and say, I'm in the car driving. If that's cool for you, let's talk. And I get the question a lot of times. It's like, it's fine by me, but do you need the documents in front of you? And my response to them is like, no, this is what I do every day. I know these documents. I can be in the car driving and go through them. I can be, you know, away from my computer. If you can give them that type of confidence, like your job is to instill in them that you are the professional. The professional knows all the documents that you're asking people to sign. Any questions specific to the listing agreement? If not, we can open it up to everything.
Hey, Josh, we have a question about explaining the new line on the exclusive right to sell that has the breakdown.
Oh, the co-broke compensation.
Yeah, how do you talk about that?
So I basically talk about like my team has a structure based on price point on what we are offering the co-broke. And it's like I typically talk about it as, you know, pretty standardized compensation. It just kind of matter of fact. Like I think that making a bigger deal out of it is, I think making a bigger deal out of a lot of this, the commission, the co-broke compensation, I think people get in trouble with that kind of stuff. I think that like you have to understand your value. You have to understand what you're willing to work for. But like I'll equate commission to, you know, someone walking into a Mercedes dealership and wanting the salesperson to justify why their car is not $20,000, right? They can walk to the dealership and say, hey man, I'm looking to buy this like E-Class or whatever. And it's like, cool, well, it's going to be $85,000. And they basically say to the dealer, well, like, hey man, that's great. But like, I was at the Honda dealer the other day and they will sell me a car for $25,000. It's like, cool, if you want to go buy a Honda, go buy a Honda. If you feel like you're a Mercedes, this is what you charge. Now you got to provide value, right? Mercedes has spent years and tons of money building their brand, building quality. It's only good for some people though. There are plenty of people out there that, especially for price, would rather drive the Honda. But you need to figure out a way to compete with those people, not by lowering your standards to, you know, charging what anybody else will charge. You know, there's discount brokers now. There's brokers that are for sale by owner, people that will do it for 1%. It's like you need to make a business decision on what your costs are going to be. What makes financial sense, right? Gary is very big on saying listings lead leverage. You might say, look, I'm willing to take this listing because it's in a great location, because it's going to bring me a ton of new opportunities. That's fine. It needs to be a business decision on your end. But for the rest of it, don't overcomplicate it. If you go to a doctor's office, they don't try to justify why they're prescribing this medicine or why they're taking an x-ray. It's like they're the professional. You take their recommendation. Real estate should be the same way. Any other listing agreement questions? Cool. All right.
I do have one. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
So, you know, in the section of the listing agreement where we write down how much we're going to share with the other agent on through the sale of the house.
Yep, the co-broke compensation.
Right. Now, sometimes we do, you know, 3.2 or just sometimes 2.5%. We don't always exactly split half of our commission. So have you ever had the question of, well, why aren't you giving them exactly half? Like, has anyone ever questioned how much you're giving to the other agent?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, it's come up in the past. It is coming up much more now that it's in there. You know, basically my explanation, and this is justification to the seller, not necessarily saying that this is the, you know, justification to co-brokes, but it's like, I'm the one taking all the risk. You know, I incur costs to generate opportunities. I incur all the financial risk in marketing properties. My team especially, we invest heavily into our sellers from a marketing perspective. I don't get paid a penny until we sell a house.
Right.
I'm very clear with my clients that it's like they're not hiring me to come on a listing appointment. They're not hiring me to market their house at the end of the day. They're hiring me to sell their house. And, you know, I'm willing to take that risk for good listings. I feel strongly about listings that I think will sell, sellers that are willing to sell. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm taking all the financial risk with marketing. And so this is the way we structure it. And it also, you know, I'm pretty clear with people that like if you pull up our multiple listing service, these are the more standard compensations. You very infrequently see people taking offering 50%. You know, you don't see a ton of straight 3.5s. Like our industry standard in Northeast Ohio now is 2.5 or 3.2, 3.21, 3.21.5. So I
Right.
would say very few people offer straight 50%.
Okay, that's good explanation. I can definitely work with that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
But yeah, again, I think it's like you got to be able to justify it, but
Mhm.
you shouldn't justify it in a manner that feels like it's an inquisition. Like you're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
Like you're not fleecing the other person. It's like everybody else in the industry offers 50% and you're out here shortchanging people. Like for the most part, you are offering what is fairly standard in our industry.
Right. It's a matter of other agents too. Like even in my groups and things like that of realtors and whatnot, they're literally complaining that we're not sharing half commit, like full 3% or things like that. But that's literally like, I don't see that as a standard anymore.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's like the way I look at it, they all have the opportunity to go get listings.
Right.
And if they want to offer 3.5%, if they can take listings at 7% and offer 3.5%, they can start working on changing the standard.
Right. I got
But
you.
at the end of the day, it's like, it's why listings is leverage. Like they can complain about it. I mean, that's probably a whole different conversation we probably shouldn't get into. But
Yeah,
it's like,
probably they need to figure out their own buyer agreements and things like
yeah,
that.
it's like, look, we all work hard. And I would say at the same time, though, if they can provide you enough value on the co-broke side, maybe you're willing to offer them more compensation from what's in the MLS.
Yeah. I do have like on the like from a buyer like the buyer agent standpoint, you know, when we do have I have a minimum. I don't know about everybody else, but I have a minimum. And but explaining to them why that other agent is not giving, you know what I'm saying, not giving the full 3.5%. You know, it's challenging all around, but
yeah, I'll also say
free.
this. I'll also say this in a market that is increasingly competitive. I just mentioned earlier about discounted brokers and, you know, people that are taking on the listing side really low commissions to get listings. All of a sudden, the co-broke doesn't want 50% anymore. Like when they call you and they say, why don't you give me 50%? And you're like, guess what? I took this listing for 1%. I'm going to pay you 0.5%. They're not so happy with that anymore either. Like there's a lot of different sides to look at it, but I think for us, it's like your job is to focus on your own business, take listings for what you think is fair, what you feel like you're providing value to your client at. And at the end of the day, you know, your job, obviously we want to protect our industry as a whole, but your job is to, you know, be profitable. Your job is to represent your seller. And it's like, as long as what you are offering the co-broke is not at the detriment of your seller's success, you should feel confident in what you're doing.
Gotcha. I agree. Thank you.
You're welcome. What other questions we got? We got to kill 28 more minutes.
Hey, Josh.
I can hear you.
Can you?
Yes, I can hear you. Well, now I can't hear you.
I think that Jen was a little easy on you.
Oh, for sure.
Because earlier she said that something about the commission was high and that the other agents were offering a lower commission.
Yep.
I could see this conversation going like, okay, you want me to list our house at $900,000. I think paying you $63,000 commission is way too much. How do you justify that? How do you work through that conversation?
Yeah, so I think you know, it's a very standard conversation. And I think for myself, much like everybody else, you've got to make a decision, right? My first goal is going to be to justify the success that I've had, show her actually how I can net her the most money. show her if I can justify if the other person's offering 6%, whatever, what we're willing to do. I'm willing to also get creative on commission in something of like, look, if you're willing to, list with me at $995, if we sell it north of $1 million, you pay me my 7%. If we sell it below $1 million, you pay me 6%. But I will say as well that this is a highly competitive market. I almost never go on a listing appointment any longer that I am not competing against numerous other agents on. And there are a lot of people that are willing to discount their commission. My commission on my team is our standard is 7%. That's already walking in the door significantly higher than what most other people's standard is. And so I have to make a business decision in the moment, and on a price of a house like the one of Jen and Sean's, the question, the most logical way of getting the paperwork signed might be something along the lines of like, look, guys, if the two of you feel confident in my ability and my team's ability to help you sell your home and do everything that we did, I appreciate that one of the agents was 6 and 4 and one was flat 5 or whatever, 7 and 5. It's like, I don't typically do this, but if I would adjust my commission to 6%, would you guys be willing to sign the paperwork right now? And a lot of times, as long as there aren't other hesitations, that will get it done. Some sort of adjustment in their favor, not all the way of an adjustment to the other agents, because there are people that are taking very low commissions, but something that to me is a business decision. If I can walk away with signed paperwork for $1 million house by adjusting down 1%, I'd call that a win. What other questions?
I had a quick question on the co-broke. I just put to be determined. And it just, and when you type it in a contract, if you have the luxury of doing that, it just kind of glazes over. It's my job to collect not only my fee, but anybody that helps us, like the buyer's agent. So I have to pre-collect all that money up front, and that's to be determined. So, but if you have 3 initials in there and tell them what it is, you're not trying to hide it. Don't make it a big issue, and it usually isn't.
I would, this is well over like my pay grade, more of a conversation for Andrew. I would guess putting to be determined, like the reason they put that line in there is so that we are disclosing to the seller what we are paying the co-broke. I think to be determined would be no different than us saying, what commission are we going to charge the seller, and putting TBD in there. But Julia maybe wants to chime in on that.
You said it perfectly, Josh. Please put a number in there for those of you who are filling out this form.
Yeah, I think with it being like a signed contract, filling out things like TBD. And I will say this, listing agent's perspective, if you guys are representing a buyer and you send over an offer, please do not put TBD on anything. Like, fill the contract out, the purchase agreement completely. From a listing agent's perspective, getting that is a waste of my time.
For clarification, the co-broke commission, whatever number you put in there is what is going to appear in the MLS. They have to be one and the same.
Cool. Other questions?
I have a question, but it's related to what you said about the to be determined, even on like the purchase contracts, things like that. So let's say, because I've been literally previously, other brokerages have taught me to, hey, on the line where it says the loan, if it's a conventional loan and how much the down payment and the, is and things like that, it says to be determined by lender. So I would rather do it right. So if that's not a good thing to write, what would be the best? Would it be to literally just us calculating that information ourselves and putting it on the contract?
The way that we fill out the purchase agreement would just be percentage. So I put 10, 90, 20, 80. But I think the way I look at it from a TBD is like, what if you sent me over a contract where the offer price was TBD? Like, it makes no sense.
Right.
Like, or the dates are TBD. Like, what's the point of us signing this agreement with
Mhm.
information undetermined?
Right. Okay, got you. Or how about to be determined by lender? Is that something?
No, I mean, because
No,
like
just-
I'm gonna still present it to my seller, and they're gonna say, "What does this mean?" And I'm gonna say, "Well, we can call the lender." Or personally think it makes the agent look poor. Like, I think the
Yeah.
more detail oriented you are, the check boxes being missed, things like that.
Mhm.
This is a highly competitive market on both sides. Taking listings is I would say as competitive as ever. Obviously, we all know homes and over the last couple of years have been selling in multiple offers. Don't give the seller or the listing agent any excuse to not want to work with your buyer.
Got you.
Most pre-approval letters state some or stipulate some minimum amount of down payment.
Right, right. So we can put that in there. Thank you. I just want to retrain myself from whatever I was taught before.
Sure. Other questions?
So like she said, when we calculate that loan amount, it may ultimately change when we get to the closing table. Is that going to be an issue? If, say we have in there, their loan is going to be for 385, but they get to the table and the loan was actually 395. That's not going to be a problem, is it?
I mean, like I said, we typically go percentages so that it doesn't have to change. But I would always rather like it changes for the positive, not for the negative. Like if you're gonna put they might put 10% down, but put 5% down. It's like they're definitely putting 5% down. If they end up putting 10% down, I don't think anybody cares. Where they do care is when you write in the contract, they're going to put 20% down, knowing that they might put 5% down. It's like, then all of a sudden what happens? If there's no issue, most people don't care. But when they can't get the loan because they're now only putting 5% down, then, it's like you guys have not upheld the terms of the contract.
Thank you.
Other questions?
If you know for a fact they have the cash down and they're willing to put the 20% down, as you're sorting through the offers and your 20% down super qualified person is $10,000 less, but the seller's more determined about time and they got to move in on their property. Isn't it a stronger offer when you say it's 20% down and I have proof of funds?
It really depends. I think like we did a good session last year with myself and Anna Lloyd from our team and 2 other buyers agents. It's really depends on sellers' needs. Like to some people, 10 grand is a huge difference. For other people, having a quick close or more secure is significantly more worthwhile than 10 grand. So I really think you have to like assess it in each situation. And really it's all based on what's important to the seller. Other questions?
When you call an agent and because you're getting ready to write an offer and you basically want to ask them a question, what is going to make the seller choose us? What's the best way for us to ask that question to like you as the listing agent? Was that you would receive it the best, the seller would receive that the best? Does that make sense?
Sure. I would say 2 things along that line. First part is, and this is maybe going to sound horrible, but to get a response from a listing agent like myself, Eitan, Jen on my team, I don't think people fully appreciate how many texts, phone calls, voicemails, emails we get on a week when we've got multiple listings on the market. Give us some information up front that's like you've already seen the property, your client's interested, things like that, because you'll get people that call before they even have viewed the property and it's like they're asking random questions. It's hard to sort through all of them. But I would be just very direct about it and just say like, Josh, I have a client that's on your Main Street. They are potentially interested in writing an offer outside of price, and maybe you don't have to say outside of price. What other terms or what else is important to your seller?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Maybe
Thank
say something about like, if we were to write an offer, what terms makes your seller's life super easy or aligns with what they're looking for.
Awesome, thanks.